Hello and welcome to the NOCN training for remote invigilation. What is remote invigilation? Remote invigilation allows learners to take their examinations from a quiet, internet-enabled room in their home or other chosen location, such as a college or other training provider centre. It is with a remote invigilator using an online conferencing system such as Zoom or Jitsi and our online test platform, Civica. The remote invigilator must be able to see the candidate at all times during the exam. The candidate must allow access for the computer screen to be seen and recorded at all times during the assessment. An initial 360-degree room sweep will be needed before the exam starts to ensure no notes are accessible to the candidate and no other person is in the room which could assist the candidate in their exam. The assessment must be completed under strict exam conditions. Please note though, remote invigilation can only be used in conjunction with NOCN online assessment and systems. Remote invigilation cannot be used for traditional paper-based examinations. What types of remote invigilation does NOCN offer? There are 3 types of remote invigilation offered from NOCN. Number 1, NOCN Remote Invigilation One-on-One, where an NOCN invigilator will invigilate an exam with one learner remotely. The session will be recorded for quality assurance by NOCN. Number 2, Centre Remote Invigilation One-on-One. This is where your centre can use your own invigilators to invigilate online exams remotely. The invigilator cannot be the tutor of the course. This session will be recorded for quality assurance by NOCN. It should be noted this is only available for some NOCN products. Number 3, Observe, Record and Review, or ORR for short. This is either ran by an NOCN invigilator or a centre's own invigilator who isn't the course tutor again. Your centre can permit up to 20 learners to sit an exam at once along with a representative from your centre present, but again, not the tutor of the course. The exam session will be recorded and the recording will be then reviewed by an NOCN for acceptance that the exam session went ahead correctly. For more information on this style, please make your current trainer aware to discuss a further training session specifically on this. Again, Observe, Record and Review is only available for some NOCN products. Exam details. NOCN recommends you invigilate only one candidate at a time and gives approximately 20 minutes for setup at the start of the exam. You will need to practice this element and give the candidate time to enter the passwords, show you an ID and do a room sweep. While most candidates do not use the total time available in the exam, some do and you must plan for this. The total you can invigilate in a day is then dependent on the length of the exam and the speed in which the room sweeps, ID checks and technical spec is all checked. Practice papers are available for some exams. They can be found on the login pages of the test platform Civica when the learner logs in. It is advised that the candidates use these practice papers before the exam to familiarise themselves with the style, layout and functionality of the test platform. For any centre to be able to offer remote invigilation of NOCN products, you need to complete one of the following to gain approval. If you are not currently a registered NOCN centre, you will need to inquire with our business development team at business-inquiries@nocn.org.uk, who will provide you with a centre approval application form and talk you through all the details on how to become an NOCN registered centre. If you are currently an NOCN registered centre that wants to offer NOCN remote invigilation, centre remote invigilation or observe, record and review, you will need to inquire with your business development manager or contact the team at business-inquiries@nocn.org.uk, who will provide you with further information and advise the next steps to become an NOCN registered centre for NOCN remote invigilation, centre remote invigilation or observe, record and review. Technical specification for remote invigilation. For remote invigilation to take place, a PC or laptop with a Google Chrome browser is needed. A webcam and microphone, along with a reasonably steady broadband connection, is also needed. Chromebooks, mobiles and tablets cannot be used, as the small screen size can disadvantage learners, particularly when the test includes longer styles of questions. A camera and microphone is necessary for both the candidate and the invigilator to be able to see and talk to each other and for the invigilator to properly invigilate the test. Without this access, the test cannot go ahead. NOCN use the video conferencing tool Zoom to connect the invigilator and the learner for one-to-one remote invigilations. This allows the learner to share their screen but also continue to show their video feed. In this way, the invigilator can see both the learner and their screen at the same time. The system then allows you to access our dedicated test platform for online exams and for the candidate to complete the test with the screen and them still being shown. The exam session will then be recorded and stored in the Zoom cloud for that individual license. The Zoom license comes as part of the remote invigilation package, and your login details will be sent closer to the time of the exam session. If your centre or the learner are having issues with either the test platform or the invigilation system, please contact NOCN immediately by calling 0300 999 1177 and requesting IT support for an online examination. That number again is 0300 999 1177. Before the exam, notes for the centre. If a candidate is receiving an NOCN remote invigilation, NOCN will email the centre to confirm when the exam will take place. NOCN will email each candidate with the details for their exam and include the centre into that email. The email to the candidates includes the date and time of the exam and instructions on what they need to do to prepare for their exam at least 2 working days prior to the exam date. For centre remote invigilation, it is the centre's responsibility to communicate the exam details to the learners before the day of the exam. The candidate does not need the login details to Civica, as the invigilator in both instances can take control of the candidate's computer and manage this for them. All checks performed by the invigilator must be recorded for audited purposes. Therefore, as soon as the learner joins the session, the invigilator should greet the learner and confirm that the session will now begin to be recorded. A checklist has been produced by NOCN to aid invigilators in ensuring all necessary checks are completed. This can be sent on request from NOCN. Invigilators must ensure that learners are aware that they are under formal examination conditions throughout their session, including before and after the completion of their examination. All details of checks and invigilator conducts can be found in our policy, NOCN Invigilator Guidance for Remote Invigilation. This is a clickable link within the PowerPoint and also can be sent separately by request. Please be aware that the above timeframes are conditional on the centre submitting their registration 5 working days prior to the exam date. Examination venue requirements. NOCN examinations must only be conducted in venues and rooms which provide a conducive examination environment. The invigilator is responsible for ensuring the examination room has been arranged in a way that is compliant with NOCN requirements. This includes ensuring that the room is quiet, has sufficient light and is private. Further information and guidance can be found within the NOCN Examinations Invigilations policy. This can be accessed by clicking the link provided on this PowerPoint or sent by request from NOCN directly. To ensure that room requirements are compliant, the invigilator must ensure that the arrangements of the learner's webcam on their PC or laptop facilitates the detection of any unauthorised activity by learners, for example, communication with others or use of unauthorised reference material. NOCN's online invigilation system will not do this automatically. Invigilators must ensure that all display material which could assist the learner with the skill or knowledge being tested, such as maps, diagrams, wall charts and projected images, are not visible within the examination room. This can be checked by asking the learner to show a 360-degree visual of their examination room prior to starting the examination. Invigilators should ensure that during the examination, the learner's screen displays a reliable clock throughout. Before the exam, notes for the learners. 5 days prior to the exam day, a learner would need to ensure that they have access to a laptop or desktop computer on the day of the exam with access to an up-to-date Google Chrome browser. The laptop or desktop computer must have a working webcam and microphone along with a steady internet connection. The learner needs to ensure that on the day of the exam, they have access to a space where they will not be disturbed. On the day of the exam, the learner needs to ensure that they are at their laptop or desktop at least 10 minutes before the test is due to start, and that their Google Chrome browser is still up to date. They will need to ensure that they have disabled any pop-up blockers. A link is provided in the PowerPoint to a step-by-step guide on how to do this. They will also need to ensure that they have the required original and valid photo ID, for example, a passport or a driving licence that is still currently within date. Starting the exam, notes for centres. Completion of examination attendance list. Prior to the start of the examination, the invigilator must fully complete the examination attendance list for the examination, in line with NOCN requirements. This will be provided to centres upon learner registration. All sections of the examination attendance list must be completed prior to the commencement of the examination. The invigilator must check the spelling and accuracy of the learners' names. For remote invigilation, NOCN does not require learners to sign the examination attendance list, as this would not be possible, but learners must confirm their full name and attendance verbally on the recording of the exam session. Learner identity requirements. Invigilators must ensure that they perform the appropriate and required checks to ensure that the correct learner is sitting the examination before the examination starts and before examination materials are shared with the learner. For all examinations, prior to each examination session, the learner must provide a copy of a valid photographic identification, such as their passport or driving licence. The invigilator must check each learner's identification documents before the commencement of each examination session, but they do not have to be completed for each examination if a learner is sitting multiple exams on the same day. The checking of identification should be part of the recorded invigilation session. Failure for the learner to produce the required identification will result in the learner not being permitted to sit the examination. To ensure invigilators fulfil the requirements of the required identity checks, NOCN recommends that invigilators use a script which follows the format of them stating the centre number, centre name, their role, for example the invigilator, the date of the assessment, what assessment is taking place, and what technology is being used. The invigilator should also ask the learner to state their name and present their identification. Records of identity checks completed must be recorded on the examination attendance list. During the exam, invigilators must ensure that they are able to observe all learners at all times. This is to ensure that they are performing their role effectively and in a compliant manner that will satisfy NOCN's examination requirements. It is important that the invigilator gives all of their attention to invigilating the examination. For this reason, invigilators are prohibited from carrying out any other tasks such as reading a book, using a computer or mobile phone use while invigilating an examination. For this reason, invigilators should ensure that they are aware of the support and escalation arrangements which are either in place or can be easily requested, to ensure that they are able to complete their invigilation role in a compliant manner. It is important that invigilators do not provide any undue information or assistance to learners regarding their examination at any point. The invigilator must not A. Offer any advice or support to a learner regarding their completion of the examination. B. Make any comments regarding the content or quality of the question paper. If the invigilator believes an error has been identified by a learner, the invigilator must refer this to the examination contact after the examination session has concluded. C. Read or rephrase a question or examination material to a learner unless the learner has had reasonable adjustments or special consideration application authorised by NOCN. Any learner who arrives after the examination session has started must not be allowed to sit their examination. The invigilator must inform the learner that because they are late, examination regulations state that they cannot sit their examination. The learner must be marked as not present on the examination attendance list. Where only one learner is booked to sit the examination, the invigilator is able to allow the examination to go ahead if the learner arrives within 30 minutes period prior or after the scheduled examination starts. This is at the invigilator's discretion. The exam. Notes for the learner. During the exam, phones must be switched off and not accessible unless arrangements have been made with the training provider and they have authorised this prior to the exam or if the exam states a second device is needed. No notes or training aids to be visible during the exam. Internet access is prohibited for all web pages other than the testing and invigilation platforms. No other individual should be in the room during the exam unless arrangements have been made with the training provider and they have been authorised prior to the exam. Webcams must be turned on at all times. Microphones must be turned on at all times. However, you must stay silent during the exam. The candidate will be asked to show the invigilator their workspace and room prior to the start of the exam to ensure that there are no notes or other prohibited items available. If the candidate needs to take a comfort break, they should raise their hand and wait for the invigilator's acknowledgement. The candidate would then be permitted to leave for a brief comfort break, but must leave the camera and microphone on and point the camera to the door to enable the invigilator to see them leave and return. Please note, this will be logged and monitored. Candidates need to be aware that the exam will be recorded. After the exam. Following the completion of the examination session, the recording of the session will be stored in the Zoom cloud for centre and NOCN invigilated exams. Recordings will be stored for 30 days to allow for quality assurance checks and to address any challenges. Recordings will then be deleted once the quality assurance has been completed. Centres and centre staff are not authorised to look at the recordings. If there is an issue that requires centre staff to view a recording, they should contact their customer coordinator, and NOCN will share the recording if appropriate. This is to keep personal data confidential and assessment material secure. If during an examination of a single learner, the invigilator suspects that malpractice may be occurring, the invigilator must raise concerns directly to the learner and should continue to monitor the situation closely throughout the examination session. Full details of the suspicious activity should be documented on the NOCN's Invigilator Log of Irregularities form after the completion of the examination and should include a timestamp of where suspicious activity has been identified. If a learner is continuously causing disruptions and the invigilator cannot continue with their duties effectively, the invigilator has the option to terminate an examination. This must be done in occasions where other learners are being invigilated and one learner is causing undue disruption. The invigilator should directly address the learner taking the examination and inform them that they are going to be removed from the examination session due to disruption. This must be logged on the NOCN Invigilator's Log of Irregularities form and passed to NOCN Quality Assurance team. Recording malpractice. Recording incidents of suspected malpractice and escalation. For any irregularities within the examination session, or if the invigilator has any suspicions regarding the security or authenticity of learners' examinations, the invigilator must make a formal record as soon as the examination session has finished. This can be done by completing the NOCN Invigilator's Log of Irregularities form. Once the form has been completed, this should be passed to NOCN Quality Assurance Team immediately following the completion of the examination session via email to assurance@nocn.org.uk. It is important to note that incidences of suspected malpractice will not be treated as proven cases until a review has been conducted by the Quality Assurance Team. The Quality Assurance Team will follow the NOCN malpractice and maladministration policy and procedure in reviewing evidence supplied by the invigilator to reach a judgment on whether malpractice has in fact occurred. Where applicable, penalties will be applied to learners in line of NOCN's malpractice policy. There will be a charge to repeat any assessments where it has been decided that malpractice has occurred in a previous assessment. Please find on this slide the current costs for the different styles of remote invigilation offered from NOCN and what is included within that cost.